The Industrial Internet of Things, or IIoT, is a subset of the Internet of Things. Specifically, the IIoT focuses on industrial systems and machine-to-machine, or so-called M-to-M communications. It could also be thought of as the intersection between IT, or information technology, and OT, operational technology. The IIoT differs from typical industrial information and data flow in that the information is now bi-directional and ubiquitous. The kinds of applications that the IIoT enables include machine health monitoring, condition-based maintenance, process health monitoring, process quality, remote servicing of machines, and monitoring of machines and processes across different plants and even different countries or continents. The IIoT is a three-tier architecture, which is now explained in detail in this section of the discussion.
Okay. Today I am privileged, honored, and really humbled to be able to share the stage with the cream of the crop, the top experts, guys that really understand a lot about the IIoT and its challenges, and they come from a variety of industries and backgrounds, and so we're really honored to have a discussion about the IIoT, its challenges, its promises, its opportunities. And so it's going to be a very lively discussion. We also have customers joining us online. We have customers here today as well. Wanted to thank all of them for being here and for joining us online. Much appreciated. And before we begin, we'd like to introduce our guests. So Nancy, I'll turn it over to you now.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Nancy Friedrich. I'm with Penton, a media company. Among the brands that we have under us that you might be familiar with are electronic design, machine design, and microwaves and RF. I'm happy to be here at this Harding event. It's a great one. Harding does a lot of good work and, of course, has a lot of great partnerships and helps to push technology forward. Welcome to all of our wonderful panelists. Obviously, we have a huge brain trust here, so I'm excited for the panel.
So as you can imagine, my role here is just to ask questions today. On that note, perhaps Vivek, you can give us a quick overview of the IIoT architecture as we see it today, so that we're all on the same page here and start from a level where we can all understand and relate to what we're going to talk about.
Sure, no, I'd love to. Just again to kind of review what we will be discussing, the first thing, of course, will be the overall IoT architecture, just to get everyone calibrated, get everyone on the same page, common terminology, so that'll help you follow the remainder of the discussion. After that, we're going to get into several different topics, and I'll discuss these in relation to the reference architecture, and then also, obviously, our distinguished panelists will be really getting into those in much more detail. And then lastly, we really want to emphasize some of the success stories. I mean, we're going to hear about challenges and problems, barriers to implementation, but we're also going to hear about things that are working and how that could translate into areas that you all are involved with, on a daily basis. And then obviously, this is meant to be interactive. And so we are going to have a hopefully very vigorous question and answer session. So I encourage all of you to, to really think throughout this entire discussion, and please do ask questions. That's why we're here. So if we look at the IIoT architecture, and this is something that's been formulated by the Industrial Internet Consortium, which is an industry group specifically brought together to address this entire issue of IIoT, what are the relevant architectural features of the IIoT, how is it organized, what does it mean, where are the opportunities. So it's very valuable to look at this structure as a starting reference point. And at the most fundamental level, there are 3 tiers to this structure: edge, platform, and enterprise. And I'm sure all of you have heard of IoT in terms of the consumer context, like Fitbit, or the smart home context, like Next. In the industrial context, the edge is really where all the things reside, as it were, in the Internet of Things. So these are machines, factories, trains, windmills, so on and so forth. So essentially all the aspects or all the items or the processes one would want to monitor and collect data from are on this edge tier. But also it's very important to note that the edge tier is not just objects. There has to be a cyber shell, as it were, wrapped around these objects. Essentially a data model explaining, how do I communicate with these objects? What data do I get out of these objects? What sensors do I use? What are these sensors measuring? And so that's another very important aspect of the edge. In order to communicate with physical things, we need a cyber-physical handshake, as it were, and that occurs at the edge. The edge also can have different devices at the edge, and we'll be getting into much more of this as the conversation goes on. Edge gateways, aggregators, you're going to hear a lot of terminology like this. But essentially, imagine different devices, hardware and software, that takes data, transforms the data, and then passes it on to other levels of the industrial internet. And the next level is really a platform tier. Platform tier, for example, could contain cloud-based applications, and I'm sure many of you have heard of these in the past, and we'll be discussing them here. Data analytics, data transformation, essentially taking a lot of the raw data and making it more actionable, putting it into context. And then lastly, the enterprise tier is really a tier at which the data from physical systems and industrial systems is combined with data from financial systems, accounting systems across the enterprise. So now you have a complete view of what's going on. And that's a very important connection as well. Because the data coming from a plant or from a physical system is also not within the proper context unless you're relating it to some business process within the company. And so that's a very important aspect as well.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, so for our first question, I'd like to ask Aidan and Christoph, and then maybe Nick, you could chime in after. In your view, what are the main barriers that industrial companies are currently facing to implement IIoT solutions?
Thanks, Nancy. I think, first of all, if you look at your industrial customer sets that you're calling on, the first thing you got to recognize is that they've got an end goal in mind. There's a why to why they're doing IoT, and it's either efficiency or productivity or growth related. The biggest challenge is in industrial, products and assets have a pretty long life. They're deployed for 10, 15, 20 plus years, and they're highly capitalized. So they're trying to connect assets that have been deployed for quite some time and with a lot of different protocols. So the first challenge is, how are you going to bridge a serial world to a digital world? And if you understand the why of what they're doing and you can really identify the data they're seeking to extract, then you can get on to the what. And that's really going to be, what is that widget, that box, like the Harting Mica solution, that is going to bridge that serial to digital divide. And I think putting it into that perspective is the first challenge, really getting the customer down to the why. Otherwise, you may not solve for the right thing. And in sales, that's pretty important as you as an organization understand your customers. Then after that, I think it's determining what the rest of the plumbing needs to look like. Okay, so you're getting it from a serial environment and you've configured it into some digital format. Now what? Where is it going to go Where is that data going to reside, and how is that data going to be converted for a digital outcome that the customer can utilize? So conversion and the plumbing, that's really the first key principle in industrial IoT and getting that right.
Yeah, so to add to that, some of the same points. So there are obviously technical issues in terms of legacy infrastructure, connectivity. But I think the why, into Aidan's terminology, or the business case is a major issue. So two set of numbers. So last year we ran a survey of about 1,500 companies. 69% of them thought that IoT was important for them or would be a major initiative. Yet 65%, I'm assuming a subset of those 69, were not quite sure about the ROI. So you think it's important, you're not quite sure what's the value. So it's a big question mark. And then related to that, we did a major business case exercise in a manufacturing environment. 3 categories of value: quality improvement, productivity improvement, and then the creation of new business model associated with the analytics from the data. When you look at the total business case over a period of 5 years, 60% of the net value was associated with the new business case. But obviously, because it's a new business case, we don't quite know what that will be, right? It's to be designed. It's somewhat uncertain. When quality improvement, everybody has a pretty good idea on what it would be. Yet, if you really want to measure the profitability of that investment, the technical dimension, the software, the cloud investment, you need to take into account that 60% of the value, which in some cases is uncharted. So technical issues, standardization issues, but also in some ways a sort of a imagination or business model, perspective, strategy, gap issues.